Welcome back to the deep dive. Have you ever stopped maybe while waiting at an airport or crossing a border and really thought about what's on your phone? I mean, everything, right? Your photos, messages, where you've been. It's kind of our whole life in a little rectangle. What if someone could just plug it in and copy all of that? Well, today we're diving into exactly that kind of capability. We're looking at a sophisticated mobile forensic tool, apparently used by law enforcement, particularly in China. It's called Massistant. Our mission today is to really unpack this thing, figure out its technical guts, how it evolved, and what it means for, well, anyone with a smartphone, especially if you travel. And just so you know, our main source here is a super detailed analysis from the folks at Lookout Threat Lab. They're top-tier cybersecurity researchers, and they've done the heavy lifting digging into these tools. So let's get started.
Yeah, it's a really critical topic. Like you said, these phones aren't just phones anymore, are they? They're digital extensions of us. And tools like this, well, they represent a pretty serious capability. Changes how we need to think about data access.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start with the basics. Massistant. What exactly is it? Lay the foundation for us.
Okay, so at its heart, Massistant is a mobile forensics application. Think specialized software. It's used primarily by law enforcement agencies in China. And its job, its whole purpose, is to pull a huge amount of data off mobile devices. Now, the really key thing, technically speaking, is how it gets installed. You don't download this from an app store, right? It absolutely requires physical access to the phone. Someone has to physically handle the device to get Massistant onto it.
Physical access, that's huge.
It is. It's not like some virus you pick up browsing the web or something that sneaks onto your phone while it's in your pocket. No, an operator needs the phone in hand. Once it's installed, though, then its main function kicks in. Grab as much data as possible.
Right, so it's not remote spyware. It's a hands-on forensic tool, like I don't know, a digital vacuum cleaner, but you actually have to plug it into the phone itself. It can't just, like, hover nearby.
That's a pretty good analogy, yeah.
Ah.
Needs that direct connection to get going. And what's interesting from a research standpoint is that Massistant didn't just appear out of nowhere. It has a predecessor, a tool that came before it.
Okay. I think I remember hearing something about that a few years back. So there's a history here. Tell us about its family tree.
Exactly. The tool that came before is believed to be MFSocket. It first popped onto the radar around 2019. And just like Massistant, it was also linked back to the same company, Meiya Pico. They're a big cybersecurity firm in China, publicly traded actually. Researchers looked closely at both MFSocket and Massistant, compared the code, the functions. And the conclusion is pretty strong. Massistant seems to be the direct successor. Think of it as MFSocket 2.0, basically an upgraded, more capable version.
Okay, so it's an evolution.
Definitely. The context for MFSocket really emerged back in June 2019. There was a journalist, Meiya, who put out this Twitter thread. It detailed reports from Chinese social media users saying police had installed this MFSocket tool on their phones during checks. And then soon after, a well-known security researcher, Baptiste Robert, shared his own analysis. He pointed out that the app's signing certificates directly named Meiya Pico. So those early reports really laid the groundwork, showing this kind of tool was already in use and being developed by Meiya Pico several years ago.
Got it. So not a new thing, but a continuous development effort by the same company. That's
Yeah.
important context. Okay, so once it's on the phone, physically installed, how does it actually work? Does it just run on the phone by itself, or is there more to it?
Right, this is where the setup gets interesting. Massistant doesn't just operate alone on the mobile device. It actually works with corresponding desktop software. It's part of a bigger system, a forensic ecosystem, if you will. The mobile app, Massistant, connects to localhost, essentially talks to the computer it's physically connected to over a specific port 10102. And that port number, 10102, is the same one MFSocket used, another link between them.
Okay, localhost, port 10102. So the phone app is communicating directly with software running on the same computer it's plugged into via USB.
Exactly. It's not reaching out over the internet to some remote server. It's a closed loop right there. That desktop component is essential. It probably manages the connection, maybe using something like the Android Debug Bridge, ADB, to forward data through that port. So the app on the phone does the collecting, but it needs that tethered desktop software to actually pull the data off and presumably organize and analyze it.
That really hammers home the point about it being an on-site forensic tool, not remote surveillance. You need the phone, the cable, and the computer with the right software altogether.
Precisely. The whole setup points towards a controlled environment like a forensic lab, or a dedicated station at a police checkpoint, not some hidden app spying on you from afar. It's built for intensive, targeted data grabbing when the device is in hand.
Okay, we've got the physical access, the desktop link. Now, the big question, when it starts that digital vacuuming, what does it actually suck up? What data are we talking about?
Well, the list is pretty comprehensive, and it covers some really sensitive stuff. We're talking precise GPS location data, where you've been, the actual content of your SMS messages, all your photos and images stored on the device, audio files,
Yeah.
your entire contact list, and even deeper phone service data, things like call logs, what your networks you connected to, that sort of
Oh,
thing.
no, okay, that's basically everything.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
If you think about it, that's almost a complete digital snapshot of your personal life on that phone.
Yeah.
Anyone whose phone gets hit with this, well, nearly every bit of personal, private, maybe even work-related information on there could be copied.
That's incredibly thorough. Your movements, your conversations, who you know, what you see, what you hear, it builds a very detailed picture. So while this is happening, does the phone's owner even know? Or is it running totally stealthily once it's installed?
Once it's launched by the operator, there are prompts. The user, or rather the operator handling the phone, gets asked for permissions,
Yeah.
the standard Android permission pop-ups, allow access to contacts, allow access to location, etc., for all those data types we just listed. But here's the crucial bit. Once those permissions are granted, apparently no other interaction is required. The app just goes into its get data mode and starts pulling everything.
And the user can't stop it.
Yeah, they try to prevent that. If someone tries to exit the app while it's running, they get a notice. It apparently says something like exiting would result in some error.
Yeah.
Basically, it tries to force the process to completion.
Yeah.
And another interesting technical detail, that error message and the whole app interface, it's only translated to two languages:
Sure.
simplified Chinese characters and U.S. English. That's it.
Just those two. Chinese and U.S. English. That's pretty telling, isn't it?
It really is. It
Yeah.
strongly suggests who the developers expect to be using the tool, and maybe more importantly, who they expect to be the subjects of the tool. Domestic use within China, and potentially targeting international travelers, particularly those from the U.S. or English-speaking countries.
Yeah, that limited language support paints a very clear operational picture. And the message stopping you from exiting that definitely underscores the forceful nature of it, from the user's point of view anyway.
Absolutely. It's designed to get the data, period. Now, you mentioned the link to MFSocket, the predecessor. How deep does that connection go? Are they just similar, or is it more like they share the same DNA?
Right, because successor could mean a lot of things in software. Was it a rewrite or just an update? What did the researchers find when they looked under the hood?
They found some really fascinating and pretty conclusive evidence. The overlap is huge. For starters, they found nearly identical functions for opening that connection on localhost port 10102. That specific technical detail is like a shared fingerprint. There's significant overlap in their code overall. The researchers concluded Massistant is a clear iteration upon the older MFSocket version 5.0. It's not just inspired by it, it's built upon it.
Wow.
Yeah, and it goes further. They have identical application icons, which, makes you wonder if they even bother trying to make them look different for the operators. A lot of the internal commands in the old MFSocket are just carried over directly into Massistant. And in many cases where they do the same job, the underlying code, the classes, are literally identical, plus maybe the most direct link. Massistant actually contains an internal configuration file named, wait for it, mfsocket.xml.
No way. So it actually references its predecessor by name internally.
Exactly. It's like leaving a breadcrumb, or maybe just reusing old configurations. Their overall package structures are very similar too, although Massistant has some additional packages added for its more robust feature set. So it clearly shows this methodical development path, adding new features onto the existing MFSocket base. It really does look like a straightforward software version upgrade, just one aimed squarely at forensic data collection.
So definitely not a rewrite. It's built right on top of MFSocket's foundation. That shared code is massive proof for analysts trying to connect the dots and attribute these tools. That kind of code reuse, it's normal in software, sure, but in forensic tools used by state actors, that's undeniable evidence of continuous development by the same group.
Precisely. It draws a very clear technical line between them. And it's within that iterative process that Massistant picks up its newer, more powerful features.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting then. We know it evolved from MFSocket. What makes Massistant, the next level? What new capabilities did they add that make it more powerful, maybe more concerning?
Right. Massistant brings several significant upgrades to the table. One of the big ones is something the Meiya Pico developers apparently call auto-click internally. Technically, this uses Android's accessibility services. Now, these services are normally legitimate. They help users with disabilities by automating clicks and interactions. But here, Massistant uses them to automatically bypass conditions in certain device security applications.
Bypass security. How?
Think about when an app asks for permission, allow access to photos,
Hmm.
or allow location tracking. That prompt requires a user tap. This auto-click feature can potentially automate the yes click. It could grant permissions without the operator needing to manually tap allow every single time.
Mhm.
It might also be used to dismiss other security warnings or prompts, like maybe those from built-in security tools on some phones. The source mentioned the Meiya Security Center as an example.
Whoa, so it can basically click yes for itself. That sidesteps a key part of the Android security model, the user permission prompt. That feels like a major escalation for a forensic tool.
It is. It moves beyond just passively pulling data to actively defeating some of the user-level protections. It makes the whole data acquisition process smoother and faster for the operator. Another really big new capability is support for Wi-Fi ADB, that's Android Debug Bridge, over Wi-Fi. The latest version they analyzed, Massistant v 8.5.7, can connect to the target device using ADB over Wi-Fi.
Wait, over Wi-Fi, not just USB.
Right. Once it's initially set up, presumably still needing that physical connection to install Massistant itself, the ongoing connection for data extraction could potentially happen wirelessly as long as the phone and the operator's computer are on the same local Wi-Fi network.
That changes the game operationally, doesn't it? No more being physically tethered by a USB cable the whole time.
Exactly. It offers much more flexibility within, say, a police station or a lab. You could potentially process multiple devices at once without needing a tangle of cables. Just have them connected to the same Wi-Fi. Much more efficient.
Huge difference for workflow. Okay, what else is new?
There's also a new file download capability. This is built into a native library that's like a core piece of software called libnativeUtil.s. This library allows the tool to download additional files onto the confiscated device.
Download files to the device, not just take files off. What would that be used for?
Well, the possibilities are pretty broad. It could be used to download extra modules, maybe for different types of data extraction, or perhaps specific configuration files, or even, theoretically, other pieces of software. And Meiya Pico themselves actually announced updates to this feature in May 2024 for their Mobile Master series products, so it seems like an area they're actively developing.
That capability, putting new files onto the device, feels significant. It opens the door to potentially adding more tools or even persistent elements after the initial grab. Speaking of data, what about messaging apps? That's where so much communication happens now. Did Massistant improve its reach there?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
MFSocket was already known to be able to collect data from Telegram. Massistant builds on that. It adds data collection capabilities for Signal and also Let's Talk.
Signal. Wow. Okay. That's obviously a platform known for its focus on privacy and encryption.
Right. Adding support for Signal and Let's Talk shows a clear effort to keep up with popular, secure messaging apps. It tells you that getting access to those communications, even the encrypted ones, is a high priority.
What does that tell us about the tool's priorities then? Clearly, communication data is king.
It certainly seems that way. Going after platforms specifically designed for privacy suggests that intercepting or extracting those communications is a major goal for whoever is using these tools. It really highlights that constant back and forth between privacy tech and forensic surveillance capabilities.
Okay, so it grabs all this data. Then what? Does it just stay on the phone forever, or is it designed to clean up after itself?
The design intention seems to be cleanup. Both MFSocket and Massistant contain a component called USB Broadcast Receiver. This component, which is almost identical in both tools, is specifically designed to uninstall the application automatically when the phone is disconnected from the USB port.
Ah, so it tries to disappear.
It tries. But here's the twist. And honestly, this is probably how researchers got their hands on samples to analyze in the first place. There are reports from users on Chinese Q&A forums, sites like Baidu and Zihu.com, who said they found Massistants still installed on their phones after the police had confiscated them and then given them back.
So the uninstallation fails sometimes.
Apparently so, which, ironically, means the tool designed to leave no trace actually left behind the very evidence needed to understand it. That failure was a breakthrough for researchers.
That's fascinating. The cleanup mechanism backfired and exposed the tool. Talk about unintended consequences.
Exactly. It was a crucial slip-up. There's even one user report on SDIC claiming the Ministry of Public Security's website said it was illegal for users to uninstall the software themselves, though the Lookout researchers couldn't find official confirmation of that specific claim about Massistant. But here's something potentially more concerning. Those anecdotal reports also mention finding persistent, headless surveillance modules on devices after they were returned.
headless surveillance modules, meaning hidden software still running in the background.
Potentially, yes. Now, the source clarifies that Massistant itself isn't designed to exfiltrate data once it's disconnected from that desktop counterpart. It's not the thing phoning home. But finding Massistant could be an indicator of compromise, and the reports of other persistent modules suggest that maybe Massistant is just one part of a larger toolkit. The initial forensic extraction with Massistant might be followed by planting something else, something designed for longer-term covert surveillance, even after the phone is back with its owner.
Okay, that's a really important distinction. Assistant for the initial deep dive, maybe something else for ongoing monitoring. That suggests a multi-stage approach, potentially.
It certainly opens up that possibility. It makes getting your phone back after confiscation potentially not the end of the story.
We've talked a lot about the tools Massistant, MFSocket. Let's talk about the maker. Who is Meiya Pico? What do we know about the company behind this?
Right, the company is Meiya Pico Information Co., Ltd., usually just called Meiya Pico. And they're not a small player. They're huge in the Chinese digital forensics market. The report estimates they control roughly 40% of that market in mainland China.
40%? That's dominant.
It really is. And they're a publicly traded company on the Shenzhen Stock Exchange, stock code 3000188. So this isn't some shadowy group. It's a major commercial entity operating in the open. Interestingly, they did change their official name in December 2023 to SDIC Intelligence Information Co., Ltd. But crucially, the signing certificates embedded in both MFSocket and Massistant still reference the original name Meiya Pico. So that name is still technically linked.
Okay, so a major publicly traded company with a dominant market share. That really highlights the commercial nature of this surveillance tech industry. Do they package this Massistant tech into other products? Is it part of a larger suite?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Meiya Pico sells a range of commercial hardware and software systems under their Mobile Master Series brand. These are integrated forensic workstations, things like the DC4501, DC4700, and FL900 models. And these systems explicitly use MFSocket or Massistant as their engine for pulling data off phones. Remember that journalist, Meiya? The troubleshooting guide she found specifically mentioned these DC and FL series tools push mfsocket.app to the mobile phone for installation. That's a direct link. So the mobile app is just one component of these larger hardware systems they sell. Exactly. And there's a clear product evolution timeline, too. Back in April 2020, Meiya Pico announced they were stopping upgrades for their older V1 products and rolling out new V3 versions. Researchers think Massistant likely replaced MFSocket in their product line right around that 2020 timeframe, which lines up nicely with when users started reporting finding Massistant. And just to give you a sense of the commercial operation, the report mentions an extended warranty for one of these systems. The DC4501 Mobile Master V2 costs about 20,000 RMB per year. That's several thousand US dollars. So yeah, it's a serious commercial product line with ongoing support contracts.
Right, definitely a well-established commercial venture, not just some experimental tool. Okay, this sounds very focused on China, but does Meiya Pico or this technology have any reach outside China? Any global connections?
Yes, they do. Meiya Pico has quite extensive international engagement. They partner with both domestic and international law enforcement agencies. And it's not just selling them hardware and software. They also run training programs for police forces from different countries. They show up at big international trade shows, like the Interpol World Exhibition. They're definitely visible on the global stage. And here's a really significant point. They're involved with China's Belt and Road Initiative.
Belt and Road? How so?
China's Ministry of Public Security has apparently tasked Meiya Pico with training law enforcement representatives from 29 different countries involved in the Belt and Road Initiative, training them specifically in digital forensics investigations.
Wow. So they're not just selling tools internationally, they're actively exporting the know-how, the methodology to a whole network of countries. Exactly. It suggests an effort to spread not just their technology, but also their approach to digital surveillance and forensics across nations participating in Belt and Road. It's potentially about standardizing capabilities, maybe even facilitating data sharing down the line. They also specifically supplied training and tools to the Tibet Police College in Lhasa, showing their domestic reach as well.
That training aspect is huge. It means their influence could be much wider than just where their specific products are sold. Speaking of sales, have these actual tools, MFSocket or Massistant, been documented as sold outside China? There is one confirmed case, yeah. Back in 2018, the Russian military's investigative branch bought Meiya Pico products. Specifically, they acquired the IDC 8811 Forensic Magic Cube V3 and the IDC 4501 Mobile Forensic System V2. These contain the mobile forensic capabilities we've been discussing. The deal was done through a contractor for about 5 million rubles, roughly $74,000 USD at the time. The stated goal was to help with Russian military criminal investigations.
So a direct sale to the Russian military.
Yes, but there's a catch. That specific sale was likely canceled later on. Why? Because the contractor who sold the Meiya Pico gear and their subcontractor apparently used fake licenses. The owner of the subcontracting firm was actually arrested on fraud charges related to this and other deals.
Fraudulent licenses. So the sale might not have been entirely legitimate, or at least the channel wasn't. That adds another layer of complexity.
It does. It suggests these tools might sometimes move through gray or black market channels, not just official sales, which makes tracking their proliferation even harder.
Fascinating. It really highlights the murky aspects of this international market for surveillance and forensic tech. Now, connecting all this back, what about the legal side? Are there laws evolving that specifically enable or regulate the use of tools like Massistant? And what's the international reaction?
The legal landscape is definitely shifting, and in ways that empower these tools. In China, for instance, new legislation introduced in 2024 by the Ministry of State Security reportedly allows law enforcement to collect and analyze devices without a warrant.
Without a warrant, that's a major change.
It's huge. It removes a significant legal hurdle for accessing device data, impacting anyone within their jurisdiction, citizen, or visitor. On the international front, Meiya Pico itself has come under scrutiny. In 2021, the U.S. government, specifically the Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, sanctioned Meiya Pico. It was sanctioned under an executive order targeting investments in companies linked to the Chinese military-industrial complex. So that highlights the geopolitical dimension. The U.S. government clearly sees Meiya Pico and its technology as having strategic, potentially military-related significance beyond just standard law enforcement forensics.
Right, so you have domestic laws potentially lowering the bar for device searches and international sanctions flagging the company for its strategic ties. That paints a pretty clear picture of the environment these tools exist in.
It really does. It's this intersection of advanced tech, evolving legal frameworks, and geopolitical tensions.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Massistant, MFSocket, Meiya Pico, the tech, the global reach, the legal context. Let's bring it back home. What does this all mean for you, our listener? Why should someone listening right now care about this?
Well, the most direct impact is for travelers. If you travel to or even transit through mainland China, there's a tangible risk. Tourists, business people, anyone deemed a person of interest. Your phone could potentially be confiscated and subjected to this kind of data extraction by state police or customs. This could happen at border checks, airports, or even during interactions with law enforcement inside the country. And remember those anecdotal reports. They suggest this isn't just theoretical. It happens, especially to business travelers.
So just the act of traveling there puts your device's data potentially at risk of being completely copied. That definitely makes you think about what you carry on your phone. What about businesses? Is there an enterprise risk here?
Absolutely. This poses a significant risk to companies whose employees travel internationally, especially executives or those carrying sensitive information. Think about it. Confidential company data, intellectual property designs, M&A discussions, internal comms, client lists, all potentially stored on a phone. If that phone gets confiscated, even temporarily, and Massistant is deployed, that critical business intelligence could walk out the door. It means corporate security needs to think beyond just network firewalls. They need strategies for protecting data on mobile endpoints that physically travel into these kinds of environments. It's a physical security and data security issue rolled into one.
It really expands the threat landscape for businesses right into their employees' pockets when they travel. Data security isn't just about the cloud anymore.
Exactly. It brings the physical device security right back to the forefront. On a slightly positive note, the source report from Lookout does mention that their own security solutions protect customers from MFSocket and Massistant. So awareness and the right technical safeguards can offer some level of defense.
Okay, so let's recap. We've dug deep into Massistant, a powerful mobile forensic tool evolving from MFSocket, developed by the major Chinese company Meiya Pico. Used by law enforcement, needs physical access, pulls huge amounts of data. We talked about its advanced features like auto-click, bypassing prompts, Wi-Fi ADB for easier connections, and we touched on its global footprint through training via the Belt and Road Initiative, some international sales, even if murky, and the surrounding legal changes and international sanctions.
Right. And maybe a final thought to leave people with, something to chew on. It's this constant accelerating race, isn't it? Between tools like Massistant trying to extract data and mobile OS developers, app makers trying to lock that data down tighter. Every time a forensic tool finds a new way in, security teams have to patch it. Every time security gets stronger, the forensic tool developers look for another crack. It really makes you wonder, as our lives get more and more digital, especially when we move around the world, how aware are we really of the digital trail we leave on these devices? And more importantly, who has the power, the technical capability to follow that trail? It just underscores how vital it is to stay informed, stay critical about the tech we rely on every single day.
That's a really potent thought to end on. The game never stops, and understanding the players and the tools is crucial. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We encourage you, as always, to keep digging into the technologies that are shaping our world. We'll catch you next time.